If you've opened Antigravity this week and thought, what happened? Let's talk. Because Google announced a lot at their I/O conference this week, but the thing that surprised me the most was what they did with Antigravity. So today I'm going to talk about what Google decided to change with Antigravity, where the tools went, and whether the new Gemini 3.5 Flash model is worth putting up with the disruption. I went in skeptical. I came out with two completely different reactions, and they don't agree with each other. So let me walk through both. In order to understand what changed, let's talk for a second about what we used to have. The old Antigravity was one tool. This is from a previous video that I did on it when it first launched. Antigravity was VS Code based, but it had this built-in agent view that nobody else had yet. You could just fire off a bunch of tasks to the agent and let it get to work. They also had the regular view that we were used to seeing. Everything was all in one place in a single application, but with two views. But Google just took that one tool and they broke it into two. In fact, they've renamed the entire Antigravity family. What used to be Antigravity is now called Antigravity 2.0. What used to be the Gemini CLI is now the Antigravity CLI. And the tools that you're missing are now found in the Antigravity IDE. One quick positive note before we go any further. All three of these products, if you want to download them, are currently available for Mac, Windows, and Linux. That's unusual. Very often Windows users at least get left out for a couple of weeks. This time, everything is ready day one. So this is Antigravity 2.0. It's the agent-first app, and in fact, it's the agent-only app. You've got projects over here on the left, like we're seeing in Codex and the Claude desktop applications. And down here, you can see conversations. You can start a new conversation. If you don't want it tied to a project, you can go down here and say no project. And then you're just having a chat with Gemini 3.5. But you can see once you're here inside of a project, if you want to see files, you have a very limited view. You can see the files that have changed. You can see the diffs basically, and you can see the artifacts that got created during the course of the project work that you're doing. But that's it. You don't have a browser. You can't edit the files. You can't even see the entire directory structure and all the files that you have. In order to see all that, you need to download separately the Antigravity IDE. So this should look very familiar if you've used Cursor or VS Code. It's literally that offshoot with the Antigravity harness. You can see your files, you can see files in the middle, just like you might expect, and then you can chat with your agent over here on the right in a panel. They've even got the browser over here, and there's a terminal that you can toggle open and closed. And then if you're still a fan of a good old-fashioned CLI in the terminal, you can install the new Antigravity CLI. To run that, once it's installed, you type AGY for, I guess, Antigravity, and that should look pretty familiar. So this is replacing the Gemini CLI, and this is not optional. I've read that they're forcibly migrating users off of Gemini CLI onto Antigravity CLI. Okay, so that's the what of what happened. And so now let's talk a little bit about maybe the why. So my first reaction was a little bit of resistance. It's not that I'm against agent-based coding. I think that is the future. When I'm coding, it's not like I'm in my files. I'm not the one making the changes. If I have something that needs to be changed, I tell the agent to do it. So on the one hand, that's fine. But on the other hand, I do a lot of documentation-based work in my coding agent systems. I'm very often in here brainstorming and asking for research and documents to be created. So I like to be able to come in and take a look at my files and see what research has been done, what my notes say. And I felt just a little bit blind in here. There's not a lot of options in this sidebar. You can see the artifacts that were created, so it's not like you're completely blind. And maybe this is enough. The more I started looking at it, the more I thought, okay, Antigravity 2.0 is not the ask your agent to create a whole bunch of files and do anything you want with them system. Antigravity 2.0 is the ask your coding agent to do some coding for you. Okay, fair enough. So I decided to come in here and start with a fresh project, simple coding task. And while I'm in here, kick the tires on Gemini 3.5 Flash. So I asked it to create a simple little web app with sort of a this day in history page. I just wanted an interesting fact about something that happened on this day in history, make it family friendly, make it positive, generate an image related to the story, and give it a kind of an old-timey feel. That's all I asked for. I was not sure what to expect. Just like the old Antigravity, it worked for a little while, came up with an implementation plan, and asked me to take a look at that and approve it. You can come in here and add comments, make notes if you want something changed, but you can't edit any of these files directly. But it looked pretty solid, so I said, go ahead and build it. This is what came back, and holy moly. I have not been super impressed in the past with the Gemini model's UI designs. Well, this was something I did not expect. We've got a fully fleshed out and generated image. This is, let's see, Levi Strauss and Jacob Davis received a patent for blue jeans with copper rivets. So on this day in history, Levi's was born. We have a fully inked designed image, and this I really didn't expect. They wrote a newspaper style story to go with that little tidbit of information. Not only that, but we've got multiple stories to choose from. We've got Amelia Earhart with a full story. We've got Thomas Edison and the kinetoscope viewer, the wondrous dawn of cinema. And from 1990, the Hubble telescope sent back its first images. Not only that, but we've got this full masthead. We've got the local time is actually doing a live countdown. Things I did not ask for, but this is a fully fleshed out version of what I would hope. That's crazy. And I cannot reiterate this strongly enough. This is Gemini 3.5 Flash. Gemini 3.5 Pro is coming out next month. This isn't even the Pro model. This, I will say, kind of undid all of my reservations. Okay, so this is where my two reactions split apart, and it's not really fair because I'm not comparing apples to apples. On the one hand, I was super impressed with the output, and that is solely due to the Gemini 3.5 Flash model. That has nothing to do with the tool that I was using to build it. But that said, that model really impressed me. Not to mention that it was fast. So I'll say what we've all been thinking, and honestly, a lot of people have been saying, Claude Code has gotten kind of slow lately, and honestly, it started making weird mistakes that we did not used to see, especially in the Opus models. This was fast. This was fast, and what it gave me was beautiful and really well thought out. It delivered above and beyond what I had even asked for. That I have not seen in the Gemini models in the past. And as far as the tool split, let me be fair and take a stab at what I think Google's trying to do. I think they, along with everyone else in the industry, has realized not everyone is using these tools the same way. Not everyone is coding the same way. There is a group of dedicated engineers that still want or need to be in the files. They want that autocomplete, but they also need a hands-on editor for the code, and they need to be able to see it at a glance. But there's a whole other group of us that just need to be able to tell an agent what they want built and let the agent go do it. And that really is me. I don't know HTML. I'm not going to go change a CSS file. If I see something in my app that I don't like, I'm going to go tell the agent to fix it. I don't need to be hands-on in that code file. So on the one hand, that's okay, and even kind of makes sense. The entire industry is going toward this agent-first view. In fact, Antigravity 2.0 looks quite a bit like Claude Code Desktop or the Codex desktop app. The menu on the left where it's just projects and chats you've had with those projects, and then the main panel is the chat with the agent. However, both Claude and Codex have given us at least a preview window, sometimes a built-in browser, and very often you can at least see the files that are in your project, as well as the directory structure. Might be a little bit difficult to get to. You can eventually get there. You can even edit the files just a little bit. It's not a full IDE. However, they do give you just a little bit of tooling help. And I think, to be honest, that's where Antigravity 2.0, for me, took a step backwards, because even in its own explanation, after it was built, it told me how to run and test the application, which was to launch a local server, gave me a copy and paste command, and told me run this command in your terminal and then go ahead and open the page in the browser. Well, that's all well and good, but there is no built-in terminal in Antigravity. So now this is assuming that I now have Antigravity and another tool somewhere, another window, another application. Now, in fairness, I did just go ahead and say, can you start the server? And it did, and I was able to launch the web page directly from here. But I sort of feel like Antigravity either needs to decide if it's really agent only and then just have the agent go ahead and start running servers and things for me in the background, or it needs to give me just a couple of those tools back. Even if there was just a collapsing terminal down here at the bottom, a panel that could be tucked away, I think that would be more helpful. So I do find it just a little bit ironic that Antigravity, when it first launched, was so exciting because it had that full IDE like we were used to seeing, and then it also gave you this agent-only view if you just wanted to clear the clutter and get it out of the way. But they took everything out. They really stripped this down, I think, just a little bit too much. In my opinion, they threw out the baby with the bathwater. So I would say the takeaway for me is a little bit mixed. If this was the Flash model, I can't wait until the Pro model comes out. That's coming out next month. That bar has been raised. But I do wish that they had at least left a few of the quality of life tools in there. But on the plus side, they didn't take everything away. We do still have Antigravity IDE. Additionally, the Gemini 3.5 Flash model is really, really good. And the Pro model is coming out next month. So I will definitely be testing the Pro model when it comes out, but I'm also going to run my own custom benchmark testing against the Gemini 3.5 Flash preview here in the next few days, especially now that I've seen what the output for their UI design was. I really kind of can't wait to see what my benchmark testing results in for the 3.5 Flash model. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. So I would say, even if you're on the fence, give one clean project a try in Antigravity 2.0. Give it a try, see what you think. If you learn to use the workflow that the tooling is built for, your work tends to go a lot more smoothly. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.